Lisa Bennett stood in front of her mirror and straightened her new blue uniform. Today was her first day on the USS Horizon, and she wanted to look perfect. At just under 5 feet tall, the uniform hung a bit loose on her small frame despite the tailoring. She sighed, knowing what was coming. It was always the same. The looks, the jokes, the underestimation. Lisa had graduated top of her class at the Interstellar Fleet Academy. Her understanding of gravity manipulation and physics had impressed even the strictest professors. But none of that mattered when people first saw her. They saw only her size. She grabbed her bag and headed to the transport station. The Horizon was currently docked at Earth's orbital station, and her assignment began in 3 hours. Lisa had spent years preparing for this moment. She was finally going to serve on a starship as a gravitational engineer, helping mankind explore distant stars. The orbital elevator ride was quick, and Lisa soon found herself walking through the massive docking bay where the Horizon waited. The ship was beautiful, sleek, powerful, and nearly a mile long. Its silver hull gleamed under the station lights. Lisa paused to admire it before heading to the boarding checkpoint. "ID and assignment papers," said the board security officer without looking up. When Lisa handed over her credentials, the man finally looked at her. His eyes widened slightly. "You're Lisa Bennett, the new gravitational engineer?" "Yes, sir," Lisa replied, standing as tall as she could. The officer looked her up and down. "Huh, I expected someone bigger." He handed back her papers with a smirk. Lisa took her papers and said nothing. She was used to this. She walked through the scanner and onto the ship that would be her home for the next 3 years. Following the directions on her tablet, Lisa made her way to the engineering deck. The ship was enormous inside, with wide corridors designed for moving large equipment. She passed crew members who gave her curious glances. Some even stopped talking when they saw her. By the time she reached engineering, Lisa's confidence was already wearing thin. The engineering bay doors slid open to reveal a massive room filled with humming equipment. About a dozen people in blue uniforms moved around the space, checking systems and preparing for departure. At a central console stood a tall man with gray at his temples. "Chief Engineer Paul Jackson?" Lisa asked, approaching him. The man turned, looking down at Lisa with surprise. "Yes? Lisa Bennett reporting for duty, sir. I'm your new gravitational engineer." The chief engineer's eyebrows shot up. "You're Bennett, but you're..." He trailed off. "Small." "Yes, sir. I am aware," Lisa replied evenly. Paul recovered quickly. "Sorry, just surprised. Your record is impressive. I expected someone older." He extended his hand, which Lisa shook firmly. "Welcome aboard. Let me introduce you to the team." As they walked around the engineering bay, Lisa met her new colleagues. Most were polite, if surprised. A few smiled genuinely, but she noticed the whispers and glances. "This is Joe Sanders, our power system specialist," Paul said, introducing a muscular man working on a large panel. Joe turned and looked down at Lisa. His face broke into an amused grin. "Well, hello there, little lady. Did you get lost on your way to the school tour?" Lisa forced a smile. "No, I'm Lisa Bennett, the new gravitational engineer." Joe laughed loudly, drawing attention from others. "You, working on the gravity systems? Can you even reach the control panels?" Before Lisa could respond, a woman's voice cut through the bay. "That's enough, Sanders." Everyone turned to see Captain Maria Rodriguez standing in the doorway. She was not tall herself, maybe 5'6", but she carried herself with such authority that she seemed to fill the room. "Captain on deck," Paul called, and everyone stood at attention. Captain Rodriguez walked directly to Lisa and extended her hand. "Engineer Bennett, I've read your thesis on microgravitational field manipulation. Impressive work. Welcome aboard." "Thank you, Captain," Lisa said, shaking her hand. The captain turned to address the entire engineering team. "The Horizon launches in 2 hours for the Tau Ceti system. This is humanity's first mission to this star system, and we have reason to believe it may host intelligent life. I expect everyone to perform at their best. She looked pointedly at Joe. "And I expect everyone to treat their fellow crew members with respect, am I clear?" "Yes, Captain," the team responded in unison. After the captain left, Paul assigned Lisa to her station. "You'll be working here on gravity control. We're prepping for launch, so get familiar with the systems quickly." Lisa nodded and got to work. The Horizon's gravitational systems were more advanced than those she had trained on, but the principles were the same. As she worked, she heard whispers from nearby crew members. How did she even get this assignment? She's tiny. Maybe it's a diversity thing. You know how Fleet Command is these days. I bet she can't even lift the emergency manual. Lisa ignored them and focused on the systems check. The Horizon's artificial gravity was stable, but she noticed a slight fluctuation in Sector 4. She made a small adjustment and watched as the reading stabilized perfectly. A few hours later, the Horizon undocked from the station. Lisa felt the familiar pull as the engines engaged. Soon they were leaving Earth's orbit, heading toward their 3-month journey to Tau Ceti. At the end of her shift, Lisa made her way to the mess hall for dinner. She grabbed her food tray and looked for a place to sit. Most tables were already filled with chatting crew members. She spotted an empty seat at a table with a few engineers she recognized from her department. As she approached, one of them, a woman named Kate, saw her coming and put her bag on the empty chair. "Sorry, saving this seat," she said with a thin smile. Lisa nodded and found another spot at an empty table. She was halfway through her meal when Commander Alan Wilson, the ship's executive officer, walked by with his tray. He paused, looking at Lisa sitting alone. "Engineer Bennett, right? Mind if I join you?" "Of course not, sir," Lisa replied, surprised. Wilson sat down and studied her for a moment. "I understand you're quite the prodigy with gravitational fields." "I wouldn't say prodigy, sir, I just work hard." Wilson nodded slowly. "You know, when they told me they were sending a new gravity specialist, I pictured someone different. Taller." Lisa suggested with a slight smile. Wilson didn't return the smile. "I just hope you can handle the job, Bennett. The safety of this ship depends on stable gravity. If you're not up to it—" "I am, sir," Lisa interrupted, then quickly added, "with all due respect." Wilson raised an eyebrow. "We'll see. This mission is too important for mistakes. First contact situations require our best people." Lisa met his gaze steadily. "Then you have nothing to worry about, sir." As Wilson walked away, Lisa felt a familiar determination rising within her. She would prove herself, just as she always had. They might mock her size now, but soon they would see what she could really do. 2 months into their journey, Lisa had settled into a routine on the Horizon. Most mornings she woke early, exercised in the ship's gym when few others were around, and arrived at her station before her shift began. Her work was excellent, and even the skeptical chief engineer Paul had started to give her approving nods. But acceptance from her peers was slower to come. Joe Sanders still made jokes about her height whenever he could. Kate and her friends would go quiet when Lisa entered the room, and Commander Wilson watched her like he was waiting for her to make a mistake. Lisa was checking the gravity readings for the ship's agricultural section when the ship-wide announcement came. "All senior staff report to the bridge. We are approaching Tau Ceti system." Captain Rodriguez's voice echoed through the ship. Paul looked over at Lisa. "That includes you, Bennett. Captain wants all department specialists present." Lisa nodded, surprised but pleased to be included. She followed Paul to the bridge where officers were already gathering around the main viewing screen. Commander Wilson frowned when he saw her enter. "Why is Engineer Bennett here?" he asked Paul. "Captain's orders." "All specialists," Paul replied. Before Wilson could object, Captain Rodriguez entered the bridge. Everyone stood at attention. "At ease," she said, moving to the center of the bridge. "We've received some interesting data from our long-range scanners. It appears Tau Ceti has a habitable planet with artificial structures on its surface." A murmur of excitement passed through the room. Lisa felt her heart race. Artificial structures meant intelligent life. "We've also detected what appears to be a space station in orbit, continued the captain. And we're picking up radio signals that suggest they've noticed our approach. We need to prepare for the possibility of first contact. The captain turned to the science officer. What do we know about this civilization? Based on the radio signals we've intercepted, they call themselves the Tau Tsitians, explained Science Officer Diane Miller. Their technology appears to be similar to ours, though. Their engineering principles seem quite different. We've been able to partially decode their language. Lisa listened intently as Diane explained what they had learned. Apparently, the Tau Tsitians lived on a planet with higher gravity than Earth. This made Lisa's expertise particularly important. Engineer Bennett, the captain said, turning to her. What can you tell us about the gravitational conditions? Lisa stepped forward, aware of everyone's eyes on her. According to our readings, the planet's gravity is approximately 1.4 times Earth normal. That's within our ship's compensation range, but it would be uncomfortable for humans without gravitational adjustment. The space station appears to maintain internal gravity, similar to their planetary conditions. So if we board their station, we'll need gravitational support, said Captain Rodriguez. Yes, Captain. I can modify our portable gravity field generators to create a bubble of Earth-normal gravity around our boarding party, Lisa said confidently. Commander Wilson scoffed. Are you sure you can handle that, Bennett? Those generators are quite heavy. Several officers chuckled. Lisa felt her face grow warm, but she kept her voice steady. The weight of the equipment is irrelevant, Commander. What matters is the mathematical precision required to create the field. I assure you I'm more than capable. The captain nodded. Good. Because you'll be going with the first contact team. Lisa's eyes widened. Me, Captain? Yes, we need someone who understands gravity manipulation, and your research on variable field strength will be valuable. We leave in 6 hours. I suggest you prepare your equipment. As the meeting ended, Lisa hurried to engineering to modify the gravity generators. Her hands were shaking with a mix of excitement and nervousness. First contact with an alien species, and she would be part of the team. Joe approached as she worked. Heard you're going on the away mission, Tiny, he said. Better be careful. If they have fans, you might get blown away. Lisa ignored him, focusing on the delicate adjustments to the generator circuits. 5 hours later, she reported to the shuttle bay with her equipment. The first contact team consisted of Captain Rodriguez, Commander Wilson, Diane, the ship's doctor, a security officer named Greg, and Lisa. As they boarded the shuttle, Wilson looked dubiously at Lisa's modified gravity generators. Those don't look like standard equipment, Bennett. They're not, Lisa replied. I've modified them to create a more precise field that will adjust automatically to fluctuations in the station's gravity. The shuttle launched smoothly from the horizon. Through the viewport, Lisa could see Tau Ceti's sun, a yellowish star slightly smaller than Earth's sun. As they approached the alien space station, she got her first good look at it. The structure was massive, with sweeping curved sections that seemed to flow together like a sculpture. It's beautiful, Lisa whispered. The station granted them permission to dock, and soon they were preparing to meet the Tau Cetians. Lisa activated her gravity generators, creating a field around the human team that would keep them comfortable in the higher gravity. Nice work, Bennett, Captain Rodriguez said, noticing how the oppressive weight seemed to lift as they stepped into Lisa's field. I can barely feel the difference. The airlock cycled, and the door to the station slid open. Lisa gasped as she saw the Tau Cetians for the first time. They were enormous beings, at least 10 feet tall with broad shoulders and powerful limbs. Their skin had a bluish tint, and their 4 eyes blinked independently of each other. The lead Tau Cetian stepped forward and made a deep rumbling sound. The translation device on Captain Rodriguez's belt processed the sounds and produced an English translation. Welcome to Tau Ceti Station. I am Station Commander Drax. Captain Rodriguez introduced herself and the team. When she came to Lisa, the Tau Cetians made what sounded like laughing noises. Commander Drax spoke again. This small one is part of your command crew. It is barely the size of a Tau Cetian child. Lisa felt her cheeks burning as the Tau Cetians continued making those laughing sounds. She noticed Commander Wilson trying to hide a smirk. "Engineer Bennett is one of our most valued specialists," Captain Rodriguez said firmly. "She is responsible for the gravity field that allows us to stand comfortably in your station right now." Commander Drax leaned down to examine Lisa more closely. His massive face came within inches of hers. Such a tiny creature managing gravitational forces. Fascinating. In our culture, size correlates with ability to manipulate the physical world. We would not expect one so small to have such skills. Lisa looked directly into the alien's four eyes. "In human culture, Commander, we've learned that physical size has little relation to intellectual capability or technological skill." Drax made a noise that the translator didn't catch, then straightened. "Come. We will show you our station and discuss the possibility of relations between our species." As they followed the Tausadians, Lisa felt a mix of embarrassment and determination. Size mattered to these aliens just as it did to many humans, but she would show them, just as she had shown her academy instructors and would eventually show her crewmates. Size had nothing to do with what she could accomplish. The Tausadians led the human delegation through wide corridors built for their massive frames. Lisa had to take 2 steps for every one of theirs just to keep up. The station was impressive, a blend of organic curves and practical engineering that spoke of an advanced civilization. Commander Drax brought them to a large meeting chamber with a circular table. The seats were enormous, forcing the humans to climb up rather than sit normally. Lisa found herself practically swimming in her chair, her feet dangling well above the floor. She noticed Commander Wilson smirking at her predicament. "We are pleased to welcome humans to our system," said Drax, his deep voice rumbling through the translation device. "Though your species is physically unimpressive, we have observed your transmissions for many years and believe an alliance might benefit both our peoples." Captain Rodriguez nodded diplomatically. "We share that hope, Commander. Our differences may be our greatest strength in a partnership." Lisa listened carefully as they discussed trade possibilities. The Tausadians had mastered certain metallurgical techniques that Earth scientists had struggled with, while humans had developed more efficient propulsion systems. It seemed like a good match except for the Tausadians' obvious disdain for their physical stature. "The small one has not spoken," said a female Taukadian suddenly, pointing at Lisa. "Does it not have permission to speak during important talks?" "Engineer Bennett is free to speak," Captain Rodriguez replied firmly. "She is our expert on gravitational technologies." All 4 of the Tausadians' eyes focused on Lisa. "Then I wish to hear how such a tiny being manages to understand the complex forces of gravity. On our world, only our largest and strongest scientists work with such powerful forces." Lisa cleared her throat. "Physical strength and scientific understanding are not connected in our species. In fact, my smaller size has given me unique perspectives on gravitational theory that larger colleagues might miss." The female Tausadian leaned forward. "Explain." Lisa thought carefully about how to describe complex physics in simple terms. "When you're small, you experience the world differently. You feel gravity's effects more intensely in some ways, less in others. This helped me notice patterns in gravitational fields that others overlooked." Commander Drax made a dismissive gesture. "Interesting theory, but practical application is what matters. Our ships can generate artificial gravity fields 10 times more powerful than what we've detected on your vessel." Lisa was about to respond when alarms began blaring throughout the station. The Tausadians jumped to their feet, their massive bodies tensing. "What's happening?" asked Captain Rodriguez. Drax pressed a button on the table, bringing up a holographic display. "A solar flare from Tau Ceti, much larger than our predictions. It will hit the station in approximately 20 Earth minutes." "Can your shields handle it?" asked Commander Wilson. "Yes, but the electromagnetic pulse will disrupt our gravity systems temporarily," said Drax. "For Tausadians, this is uncomfortable but manageable. For your smaller, weaker frames..." He left the implication hanging. Lisa spoke up. "Our shuttle has shielding against solar radiation, but it can only accommodate our team. What about your people on the outer sections of the station?" The female Tausetian, who had introduced herself as Science Director Mara, looked troubled. The outer research labs have 12 scientists. There isn't time to evacuate them to the core. I might be able to help, Lisa said, standing up in her oversized chair. With your permission, I'd like to examine your gravity control systems. Drax looked doubtful, but nodded. Show her, Mara, though I doubt the tiny one can improve upon our technology. Mara led Lisa and Captain Rodriguez to the station's engineering section. The gravity control room was filled with equipment built for beings twice Lisa's height. Holographic displays showed the approaching solar flare, a massive eruption of charged particles headed straight for the station. Lisa studied the Tausetian gravity systems with growing excitement. Their technology was different from human designs but followed the same basic principles. She noticed something interesting about their approach. Your gravity generators create a uniform field across the entire station, she said to Mara. Yes, consistency is key to structural integrity, Mara replied. Lisa shook her head. But during a solar event, you need variable field strength to compensate for the electromagnetic disruption. The flare will hit different parts of the station with different intensities. Mara's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. Variable fields are unstable. Not if properly calibrated, Lisa insisted. She pointed to her portable generator. This creates a bubble of Earth normal gravity inside your higher gravity environment. It adjusts constantly based on surrounding conditions. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. Bennett is our top expert on this technology. If she believes she can help, I suggest giving her the chance. Mara hesitated, then gestured to a control panel. You may access our systems here, but be warned. If you destabilize our gravity field, everyone on this station could die, Lisa. Climbed onto a step stool that Mara provided and began working. The Tausetian interface was designed for much larger hands, making Lisa's work difficult, but she adapted quickly. Commander Wilson and Drax entered the control room as she worked. What is the small one doing? Drax demanded. Attempting to modify our gravity systems, Mara explained. Wilson crossed his arms. Bennett, are you sure you know what you're doing? These aren't our systems. The principles are the same, Commander, Lisa replied without looking up. I'm creating localized gravity bubbles around each section of the station. When the flare hits, each bubble will adjust independently to maintain stability. That's not possible, Drax said dismissively. Our best engineers have tried similar approaches. The power requirements alone are manageable if you route energy. Dynamically, Lisa interrupted, her fingers flying across the controls. Your systems actually have more capacity than you're using. The countdown timer showed 5 minutes until the flare hit. Lisa finished her modifications and stepped back. It's done. I've created 16 separate gravity fields across the station, each programmed to respond to electromagnetic fluctuations independently. Drax looked skeptical. If this fails, it won't, Lisa said with confidence she didn't entirely feel. As the timer counted down, tension filled the room. Lisa double-checked her calculations, searching for any errors. The Tausetians watched her with a mixture of doubt and hope. 1 minute, announced the station's computer in its alien voice. Captain Rodriguez put her hand on Lisa's shoulder. Good work, Bennett. Whatever happens, you did your best. 30 seconds. Commander Wilson stood stiffly by the door, his expression unreadable. Lisa took a deep breath and waited. Flare impact in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The lights flickered as the solar flare struck the station. The floor vibrated beneath their feet. On the monitors, power levels fluctuated wildly as the electromagnetic pulse washed over them. Lisa watched her modified gravity systems respond, each section adjusting as she had programmed. For a tense moment, it seemed like the station would shake apart. Then, gradually, the vibration subsided. The light stabilized. The gravity remained constant. Outer sections reporting, said a Tausetian voice over the communication system. Gravity fluctuations minimal. All personnel safe. Mara's 4 eyes widened as she checked the readings. The modifications worked. The variable fields compensated perfectly for the electromagnetic disruption. She turned to Lisa with new respect. How did you calculate the exact parameters so quickly? Before Lisa could answer, Drax spoke. "It appears we have underestimated you, Engineer Bennett." His tone had changed, carrying a note of respect. "Perhaps size is not as important as we believed." Lisa allowed herself a small smile. "On Earth, we have a saying, good things come in small packages." For the first time, Lisa saw Commander Wilson looking at her not with skepticism, but with genuine admiration. It was a small victory, but an important one. The real test, she knew, was still to come. The next day, Lisa found herself in a very different position with the Tausedians. After the solar flare incident, Science Director Mara had requested Lisa's assistance in their gravity research lab. Captain Rodriguez agreed, seeing it as an opportunity to strengthen the new alliance. Lisa walked through the station's corridors alongside Mara, whose enormous strides meant Lisa had to almost jog to keep up. She noticed passing Tausedians now looked at her with curiosity rather than amusement. "Your solution to the flare problem has created much interest among our scientists," Mara said. "They wish to understand how you developed this variable field technology." Lisa smiled. "I'd be happy to share our research. Knowledge exchange benefits everyone." They entered a massive laboratory where several Tausedian scientists were working with equipment Lisa didn't recognize. All work stopped when she entered, and all four-eyed gazes turned to her. "This is the human gravity specialist," Mara announced. "Engineer Bennett has agreed to assist with our current project." A particularly large Tausedian stepped forward. "I am lead scientist Krell. We are developing a new propulsion system based on gravity manipulation, but we face certain challenges. Perhaps you can offer a different perspective." Krell led Lisa to a workstation and showed her their designs. The Tausedians had created a drive system that used controlled gravitational fields to pull a ship forward through space, similar to human technology, but designed for much greater power output. "The field becomes unstable at high energy levels," Krell explained. "We cannot maintain control beyond certain thresholds." Lisa studied their equations, quickly spotting the issue. "You're treating gravity as a uniform force, but at these energy levels, quantum effects create ripples in the field." She wrote out a modified equation on their display. "If you introduce these compensating factors, you should be able to maintain stability." The Tausedian scientists exchanged looks of surprise. Krell inspected Lisa's equations carefully. "This approach is unexpected," he admitted. "Our theories of gravity have always emphasized strength and uniformity. Human theories focus more on flexibility and adaptation," Lisa explained. "When you're small, you learn to work with forces rather than overpower them." As the day progressed, Lisa found herself becoming an impromptu lecturer on human gravitational theory. The Tausedians were brilliant scientists but had approached physics from a completely different cultural perspective, one that valued power and size above all. Meanwhile, on the other side of the station, Captain Rodriguez and Commander Wilson were negotiating with Commander Drax. The discussions had been going well until they reached the topic of human visitation rights to Tausedi's planet. "Your species would find our world uncomfortable," Drax explained. "The gravity alone would strain your smaller frames. We suggest limiting human presence to orbiting stations only." Wilson frowned. "That's not acceptable. Any true alliance must include mutual planetary access." "Perhaps a compromise," Captain Rodriguez suggested. "Limited visitation with proper gravitational support. Engineer Bennett's technology could make it possible." Drax considered this. "The small one has indeed shown unexpected capability. I will consult with Science Director Mara about the feasibility." Back in the lab, Lisa was helping the Tausedians modify a test unit for their new drive system when Commander Wilson entered. With Drax. "Bennett," Wilson called. "We need your expert opinion. Is it possible to create portable gravity fields that would allow humans to visit the Tausedian homeworld comfortably?" Lisa thought for a moment. "Yes, but we'd need to scale up my current design. The planetary gravity is much stronger than this station's artificial field." "How quickly could you develop such technology?" Drax asked. "With help from your scientists. Perhaps a few days," Lisa replied. "The principles are sound, but the power requirements are substantial." Drax nodded. "Then we have a path forward for our negotiations." Director Mara. Assign your best people to assist Engineer Bennett. Over the next 3 days, Lisa worked alongside the Tau Cetian scientists to create a prototype gravity suit. Her small fingers proved adept at manipulating the delicate components that the large Tau Cetians struggled with, earning her additional respect. On the 4th day, they were ready for a test. A small delegation, including Captain Rodriguez, Commander Wilson, and Lisa, would use the new gravity suits to visit a Tau Cetian orbital platform with the same gravity as their homeworld. The suits will create a bubble of Earth-normal gravity around each wearer, Lisa explained as she helped her crewmates put on the devices. It's like wearing your own personal environment. Wilson examined his suit skeptically. And this will really protect us from crushing gravity? It will, Lisa assured him. Just don't deactivate it while on the platform. They boarded a Tau Cetian shuttle with Drax and Mara. As they approached the platform, Lisa felt a flutter of nerves. Her design worked in theory and in small tests, but this was the first full-scale trial. The shuttle docked, and Drax turned to the humans. Activate your suits before the airlock opens. The gravity will feel immediate otherwise. Lisa switched on her unit and felt the familiar hum of the gravitational field forming around her. Captain Rodriguez and Commander Wilson did the same. The airlock opened, and they stepped onto the platform. The Tau Cetians moved with easy grace in the heavy gravity. Lisa watched carefully as Captain Rodriguez took her first steps. "How does it feel, Captain?" she asked. "Like normal Earth gravity," Rodriguez replied with a smile. "Remarkable work, Bennett." Commander Wilson looked genuinely impressed. "I can't feel any difference at all. The field is completely stable." They toured the platform, which served as a training facility for Tau Cetian space crews. Everything was built to a massive scale. Doorways twice the height of human standards, control panels designed for hands larger than human heads. "This is how you would feel on our world without the gravity suits," Mara explained, gesturing to a weight training area where Tau Cetians were lifting objects that would be impossible for humans to move under normal conditions. Lisa noticed one of the younger Tau Cetians watching her with particular interest. He approached and introduced himself as Tarn, a junior engineer. "Your gravity field technology is fascinating," he said. "But I wonder, what would happen if the fields interacted with our gravity amplifiers?" Lisa frowned. "Gravity amplifiers? I haven't seen those in your designs." Tarn pointed to a section of the platform where several Tau Cetians were working with equipment Lisa didn't recognize. "We use them for strength training. They can increase the gravitational pull in a localized area by up to 5 times. Lisa felt a sudden unease. "That could create dangerous interference with our suits. We should keep our distance from—" Before she could finish, alarms began blaring throughout the platform. An automated voice announced, "Warning, gravitational anomaly detected in Section 4. All personnel evacuate immediately." Drax's 4 eyes widened. "The amplifiers must have malfunctioned. We need to leave now." The group hurried toward the docking area, but they had only gone halfway when Lisa felt her gravity suit begin to vibrate strangely. The field was fluctuating, struggling to compensate for the chaotic gravitational waves now washing through the platform. "Something's wrong with the suits," Wilson called out, his voice strained as he fought against the increasingly erratic gravity. "Bennett, what's happening?" Lisa checked her control unit. "The amplifiers are creating gravitational waves that are interfering with our fields. The suits are trying to compensate, but they weren't designed for this kind of disruption." Captain Rodriguez stumbled as a wave of heavy gravity washed over her. "Can you fix it?" Lisa's mind raced. The situation was becoming dangerous, but there might be a solution, one that would require all her knowledge and skill with gravitational fields. "I think so," she replied, already beginning to modify her suit's controls. "But we need to hurry. The next gravitational wave could be much worse." Lisa worked quickly, her small fingers dancing across the control panel of her gravity suit. The platform shook around them as gravitational waves rippled through the structure. Captain Rodriguez and Commander Wilson were struggling to stay on, their feet as their own suits flickered and faltered. "The amplifiers are creating a resonance pattern with our suits," Lisa explained, her voice steady despite the danger. If I can invert our field polarity, I might be able to cancel out the interference. Drax and Mara were more stable in the shifting gravity, but even they looked concerned. Our engineers are trying to shut down the amplifiers, Mara said, but the controls are not responding. Lisa finished her modifications and looked up. Captain, Commander, I need to adjust your suits too. This should stabilize our fields temporarily. She quickly made the same changes to their control units. The violent gravitational fluctuations around them immediately lessened, but Lisa knew it was only a temporary fix. We need to get to the amplifier room, she said. I think I can create a counter-resonance that will shut them down safely. Too dangerous, Drax rumbled. The gravitational forces near the amplifiers are extreme now. Even Tau Sadians cannot approach safely. Lisa met his four-eyed gaze steadily. I can. My modified suit should protect me. Captain Rodriguez frowned. Bennett, that's too risky. If your suit fails, it won't, Lisa interrupted. Captain, I understand these fields better than anyone. Please let me try. After a moment of hesitation, Rodriguez nodded. Be careful. Lisa followed Mara's directions toward the amplifier room. The corridor leading to it was empty. All Taukidian personnel had evacuated. As she approached, she could feel the gravitational forces growing stronger, pulling at her suit's protective field. The door to the amplifier room was partially blocked by equipment that had been thrown about by the fluctuating gravity. Lisa had to squeeze through a narrow opening, her small size finally a clear advantage. Inside, she found 3 large machines humming with power, their control panels flashing with warning lights. Lisa studied the alien technology quickly, recognizing the basic principles despite the unfamiliar design. The amplifiers had entered a feedback loop, each one strengthening the output of the others. She needed to break the cycle without causing a sudden collapse that could damage the station. She connected her suit's control unit to the nearest amplifier. Her plan was daring. Rather than shutting down the amplifiers, she would use her suit to create a precisely tuned counterfield that would neutralize their effects long enough for a safe shutdown. Lisa's fingers moved rapidly across both her suit controls and the amplifier interface. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she worked. The math had to be perfect. One mistake could make the situation worse. Back in the corridor, Captain Rodriguez and the others waited anxiously. The gravitational waves were growing stronger. She's been in there too long, Wilson said, genuine concern in his voice. We should... He was interrupted by a particularly violent gravity wave that nearly knocked them all off their feet. Then, suddenly, the fluctuation stopped. The gravity stabilized. She did it, breathed Rodriguez. A moment later, Lisa's voice came over the communication system. Captain, I've created a neutralizing field. The amplifiers are safe to approach now, but my suit is channeling a lot of power. I need help to shut them down properly before my battery depletes. Drax immediately headed toward the amplifier room, followed by Mara. They found Lisa standing between the 3 massive machines, her gravity suit glowing with energy as it projected, a complex field pattern that was holding the amplifier's output in check. Impressive, Mara said as she quickly began the shutdown sequence on the first amplifier. Drax worked on the second machine. I have never seen such precise field manipulation. Lisa maintained her concentration, adjusting her suit's output as each amplifier powered down. By the time the third machine was offline, her suit's battery warning was flashing red. Just in time, she said with a tired smile, powering down her suit as the emergency was finally over. They returned to the others. Captain Rodriguez looked relieved to see Lisa unharmed. Even Commander Wilson seemed impressed. How did you do it? He asked. I used the suit to create a counter-resonance field, Lisa explained. Instead of fighting against the amplifiers, I matched their pattern but with an inverted phase. Basic wave physics, just applied to gravity instead of sound or light. Tarn, the young Tausidian engineer who had mentioned the amplifiers earlier, approached Lisa with an expression of awe. You controlled all 3 amplifiers with a single field generator? Our best engineers cannot manage such precision. Lisa shrugged. Sometimes smaller tools can make more precise adjustments. The journey back to the main Tausadian station was filled with excited discussion. News of Lisa's solution had spread quickly, and by the time they docked, A crowd of Tau Cetian scientists was waiting to meet her. The next day, Commander Drax called for a formal meeting with the human delegation. Captain Rodriguez, Commander Wilson and Lisa sat across from Drax and several other Tau Cetian leaders. "We have reviewed the events of yesterday," Drax began, his deep voice solemn. "What Engineer Bennett accomplished was extraordinary. Our scientists are still studying the data from her gravity field manipulations." Mara nodded. "The precision control displayed was beyond our current capabilities. We would like to propose a joint research initiative with Engineer Bennett as the lead human representative." Lisa's eyes widened in surprise. Captain Rodriguez smiled proudly. "We would be delighted to establish such a program," the captain replied. Commander Wilson cleared his throat. "I'd like to officially recommend Engineer Bennett for promotion. Her actions yesterday saved lives and advanced our mission objectives considerably." Lisa couldn't hide her shock at hearing those words from Wilson, who had been her biggest critic. Drax stood, his massive frame towering over the table. "There is one more matter to address." He turned to face Lisa directly. "In our culture, we have a ceremony for those who demonstrate exceptional ability. We would be honored if you would participate, Engineer Bennett." Later that day, Lisa found herself in a large ceremonial chamber filled with Tau Cetians. In the center was a circular platform surrounded by what appeared to be gravity generators. "This is our trial of mastery," Mara explained. "Traditionally, only our largest and strongest engineers attempt it. It requires precise control of gravitational forces." Lisa stepped onto the platform, feeling nervous but determined. Drax activated the system, and Lisa felt the gravity around her begin to shift and change. Following Mara's instructions, she used her modified suit to interact with the Tau Cetian technology. "You must create a stable field that can lift and control the positioning of these objects," Drax explained, indicating several large metal spheres placed around the platform. Lisa concentrated, adjusting her suit to project a complex gravity field. The spheres began to rise slowly into the air. The watching Tau Cetians murmured in appreciation. But Lisa wasn't satisfied with simply meeting the challenge. Drawing on everything she had learned, she expanded her control, creating multiple independent fields that moved each sphere in a different orbital pattern around her. The display was beautiful and demonstrated a level of precision that left the Tau Cetians speechless. For her finale, Lisa carefully adjusted her field one last time. The change in gravitational forces was subtle, but precisely calculated. Tau Cetian observers, unprepared for the shift, suddenly found themselves gently lifted a few feet off the ground. Their massive bodies floated helplessly as Lisa held them suspended in her gravitational field. Commander Wilson, watching from the side, couldn't help but laugh at the sight of the once condescending aliens now literally floating at the mercy of the woman they had mocked for her size. After a moment, Lisa gently lowered everyone back to the floor. The chamber erupted in the Tau Cetian equivalent of applause, a rhythmic stomping that shook the floor. Drax approached Lisa and, in an unprecedented gesture, lowered himself to meet her at eye level. "Engineer Bennett, you have shown us that true mastery comes not from size or strength but from understanding and skill. From this day forward, no Tau Cetian will ever judge a being by their physical stature again." As Lisa looked around at the gathered aliens and her fellow humans, she saw nothing but respect in their eyes. Her journey had been difficult, but she had proven once and for all that when it came to human ingenuity, good things truly did come in small packages. Commander Wilson approached her as the ceremony concluded. "Bennett, I owe you an apology. I judged you unfairly based on your appearance." Lisa smiled. "Commander, sometimes people need to see what you can do before they believe it." "Well," Wilson said with a wry smile, "sending a room full of 10-foot aliens floating through the air certainly makes a convincing statement." Lisa laughed. "I've found that actions speak louder than words, especially when those actions defy gravity." Captain Rodriguez joined them, beaming with pride. "Engineer Bennett, you've not only secured an alliance with the Tau Cetians, but changed their entire perspective. That's diplomacy of the highest order." As they walked back to their shuttle for the return journey to the horizon, Lisa felt a deep satisfaction. The universe was vast and filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. But today she had proven that in space,